Right, there's a lot to get into here. So, main story coming out of last night's show would be The Miz would apparently be turning heel, and the return of his former tag team partner John Morrison. Now, to tell a bit of a linear story to this, because this was sort of spread out throughout the show, The Miz was a bit of a narrative thread here in this episode. So to start the show, we have a cold open, which is always nice. I do enjoy a cold open to a show. So it's the segment before they actually roll credits, do the pyro, and then get on with the action. So this week's cold open, we have Daniel Bryan backstage. He's taping his wrists, getting ready for his match later on in the evening. And The Miz walks up to him. They've been having a lot of interactions over the last few weeks with their feud with Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. The Miz talks about The Fiend taking everything that he's cared about. He talks about him violating the sanctity of his home, and he says that the Miz says he's going to get his revenge, essentially, on Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. And this bit did make me chuckle, because he then gave Daniel Bryan some advice, some needed advice for the Royal Rumble. He says to Daniel Bryan, beat The Fiend at the Royal Rumble for everyone. Oh, well done. Okay, great advice. Oh, Daniel Bryan was thinking, I was just going to go into the ring at the Royal Rumble, lay down and let him win. Beat him. Oh, good advice. But beside the point, it was setting up the thread for the rest of the show. Miz was being very serious here. And like I said, I enjoy cold opens for the show. I think they set up the show nicely, and they give you a bit of a taste of the direction of where the show's going to go. So no complaints there. Later on in the evening, we see serious Miz walking around backstage, and he bumps into Kofi Kingston and Big E of the New Day. The New Day have a platter of pancakes that are spread out in the shape of 2020. So celebrating the new year with pancakes there. Hey, some people celebrate it with alcohol and getting off their face drunk. Apparently the New Day just have some pancakes with some syrup on it. I like that. They talk about who won the most titles in the tens. And Kofi Kingston says, The Miz, you had a great decade, Main event of WrestleMania, won the WWE Championship, and you won the most titles in the tens. Big E interrupts and says, actually, that's kind of true, but kind of not true. You're actually tied with a guy that won the most titles in the tens, and that would be Kofi Kingston. The Miz then talks about Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, violating the sanctity of his home. That was a key phrase here. He says it isn't about titles, and he smacks the pancakes out of the hands of the New Day, and they set up a match for later on in the evening. Now, this was a really good segment. This was teasing the heel turn to come from The Miz here tonight. But this sort of serious character is a nice change of pace for The Miz, You think of the 2019 he had, I mean, it just god awful. That feud he had with Shane McMahon, I was meant to get him over, remember? And it did anything but. He lost to Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, he lost the rematches. The Miz came out worse because of that. Now, this extra attention into The Miz character is needed to build him back up. We'll get into the ramifications of the heel turn in a second, but I thought this serious edge, which would develop and manifest into a heel turn later in the evening, was good. So the match itself, The Miz vs Kofi Kingston, it was a short match. Nothing really happened in the match, and I think it would be unfair to criticise it or praise it, because it wasn't about the match, it was about the post-match. So Kingston gets the win. There's multiple reversals between The Miz and Kingston. Kingston rolls at The Miz very quickly, only a couple of minutes. Post-match, The Miz attacks Kofi Kingston, who was then run off by Big E. Now the crowd starts to turn on The Miz here. They start to boo him. The crowd chants, "You suck," and The Miz then goes off at the crowd. "How dare you, after everything I've been through, after everything I gave you, you turn on me." So this was good. This was really good. It continues the narrative that anyone that interacts with The Fiend is getting changed. So obviously you think of Finn Balor, obviously at SummerSlam, he was the babyface. The Fiend shows up, bang, Balor goes away, comes back, he's a heel, his personality changed. You think of Seth Rollins, he's had his matches with The Fiend. Fiend beats him, bang, Seth Rollins turns into a heel. So this continuation of, don't mess with The Fiend, he will change you. He has this otherworldly effect on your psyche, on your character, that he will change you from a good person to a bad person, or even the other way around. If you think of Daniel Bryan's case. Daniel Bryan later on even would say that he's unbreakable. The Miz can't change him, but, technically, Bryan. He already has, considering you a heel now, babyface. But that's besides the point. It's a nice narrative thread that it tells here. So I really liked this. I thought it was fun and compelling. Like I said, a lot happened, and it was good development of a storyline. Like I said in the intro, there's not enough development in the show. Sometimes it's just rinse, repeat, Control C, Control V when they make their shows. So it was nice development here. Now that wasn't the end of it. So you would think they could have easily just left that there for us to resonate with for another week. And think, okay, where are they going to go with this Miz heel turn after being, you said, just essentially violated by the Fiend. I mean, he showed up and played with his kid in his house. Backstage, Kathy Kelly knocks on the door of the Miz dressing room. Apparently everyone has a dressing room backstage. I know that's actually not the case, but if you want a dressing room, you just have to stick your name on it, apparently. So the Miz has his dressing room. Kathy Kelly knocks on the door, but the Miz doesn't come out. Out comes John Morrison. He says to Kathy Kelly, Miz has nothing to say, and then Morrison goes back into the dressing room. So John Morrison's back. Obviously, we knew this was coming, the announcement that John Morrison had signed a new contract with WWE. Off the top of my head, I can't recall how long. I would assume it's between 3 and 5 years. At the moment, WWE's signing people to a 5-year contract extension, so it may be a 5-year contract, or it may be the more traditional 3-year WWE contract. I know John Morrison is 40 now. So this is his last big contract. This is his last big run with WWE, and I'm glad he's gone back to finish off his career there, because he's a tremendous talent, tremendous in-ring talent, and he was getting there when he left WWE. He'd had a couple of main events. I remember Morrison against The Miz and John Cena. They had a WWE Championship triple threat steel cage match at Extreme Rules in 2011. He was getting there, and then he just, bang, he was gone. So I'm glad to see him back. Now, there was criticism online about could they have done the return of Morrison better. Yes, they could have done the return of Morrison better. They could have done the surprise entrance music and reaction, big pop, because the pop he did get by opening the door wasn't as big as some people would like. My counter-argument to this would be that you had 2 other returns on this show, which were surprise, shock, hit the music returns. So it could have been slightly overkill, put it that way, if Morrison had done that. I'm sure when he does make his entrance, he'll get a big pop. I thought this was more of a subtle return, and I wasn't against it. Which, of course, who wouldn't want to see the big return pop and the music and things of that nature? But I think this was well done. I'm glad to see Miz and Morrison back together, but as a more serious team. When they were a tag team in the past, and they were tag team champions on the then ECW brand, they were serious to a point, but they were younger, they were slightly more comedic, but now obviously they've grown and they've developed more. I'd like to see them back together in a more serious role. Yes, it was a waste of a pop, but hey, Morrison will get his pop sometime down the line. As a tag team going forward, I mean, who do they face? You would assume they're going to have some matches with the New Day now. Obviously, the New Day are tag team champions, so maybe that's a tag team championship feud. Personally, if you really want to, put the rocket on Morrison and Miz, you're going to have them win the tag titles relatively soon, perhaps the Royal Rumble. And you can really build up Miz and Morrison as a serious, credible tag team that can also split off into singles matches. So it's not a case of they can only tag together, they can be a team that also works single matches. Similar to sort of and I'm not saying they're as good, so before you go back saying they're as good, similar to sort of a DX or Rated RKO, where they are a tag team, but these are 2 potential main event guys that team together, but they can also split off. And another thing to consider, does this mean we're going to see the return of their segment, The Dirt Sheet? Now, The Dirt Sheet was a segment that actually, it was a WWE.com original show, and they would basically just mock certain people, certain teams, whoever they were feuding with at the time, and it was incredibly entertaining, and it gathered a bit of a cult following online, and got so popular to the point where they actually made it a bit of an in-ring segment, but then they were shortly split up, with Morrison going to Smackdown, Miz going to Raw, and their singles careers then took off. So perhaps we'll see the return of that. me, personally, I would like them to hold off on doing the dirt sheet return at the moment, because I think, again, that goes back to it being slightly comedic when they should be, at the moment, initially, Miz turning heel, Morrison could be a compelling heel as well, and they could be a really compelling, serious heel team. But, I'm glad to see Morrison back. I thought the Miz heel turn was well done, and I'm really interested to see where they go with this. And you don't say that often with WWE TV. So, enjoyable, interested to see where they go with this one.